Gemini, before you turn this video off, give me just 30 seconds, because this morning, something unusual is moving closer to you. Not loud, not dangerous, but strong enough to change how you see the people closest to you. Someone in your home doesn't exactly want you to know this, not out of cruelty, but because once you do, you won't be the same anymore. If, right now, there's a very gentle feeling inside you, as if something is quietly clicking into place, stay with me, because this truth is not here to hurt you. It's here to set you free. And to understand why, we need to begin with something very deep. Why the people closest to us are often the most afraid of our awakening. There are mornings, Gemini, when you wake up and nothing special seems to happen. No crisis, no bad news. No one says a word that hurts you. And yet, inside, something is no longer the same. A feeling that's hard to name, as if a thin layer of fog has just lifted from your mind. You look at the same house, the same familiar faces, but somehow you see them differently. When people hear the words, "Someone at home doesn't want you to know," the mind jumps immediately to betrayal, to lies, to hidden motives. But when seen through awareness, the truth is rarely that simple. In Buddhist teaching, there is a very deep understanding. Not everything that is hidden comes from bad intentions. Much of what is hidden is born from fear. And the greatest fear of those closest to you is that you might change. Not because they hate you, but because they have grown used to the old version of you. The version that always listens, always gives in, always stands in the middle to keep the peace, always carries emotional weight, so others don't feel uncomfortable. You may have never named it this way, but deep down, you've been playing a role in your family for a very long time, a quiet role. And when someone begins to awaken, that role starts to loosen. No one says anything out loud, but the energy shifts. Familiar conversations suddenly feel heavy. Old responsibilities begin to tire your heart. This is not selfishness. This is maturity. The truth opening in front of you is not here to hurt you. It's here to show you something gently. There are burdens you carried out of love, but they were never truly yours to hold. Many people in your family may unconsciously wish for something very human. I wish you wouldn't change. I wish things could stay the same. Not because they want you weaker, but because your new strength forces them to face themselves. As your vision clears, what was once hidden behind silence begins to surface, not like a blow, but like a cool breeze after a long fever finally breaks. You may start to notice emotions in the home that were never spoken aloud, expectations you were never asked to agree to, connections held together by habit, not by true understanding. And this realization does not break you, it frees you. In healing astrology, Gemini is the sign of awareness. You were born to understand, not to endure life in confusion. Yet many Geminis grow up believing that understanding too much means staying quiet more often. This morning, what's happening is not conflict. It's a very quiet awakening. You don't need to confront. You don't need to question. You don't need to prove anything. You only need to see clearly. And when you do, an invisible thread begins to loosen on its own. The thread of unconscious obligation, of always needing to please, of guilt for choosing yourself. In Buddhist teaching, there's a simple but powerful truth. Right understanding is the foundation of compassion. When you understand that others fear your change, not because you're wrong, but because they're not ready, the anger dissolves. All that remains is release. And release is not leaving. Release is no longer allowing your heart to be pulled backward every time you step toward the light. Truth does not come to divide families. Truth comes to restore order within you, so you can finally see what is love, what is sacrifice, and what sacrifice has reached its natural end. If this morning your heart feels calmer than usual, yet a little emptier too, that's the sign of a door just opening, a door leading to the next lesson, a deeper one, a more challenging one, but also far more freeing. Because once truth is seen, you can never go back to living the same way. And right here, a larger question begins to rise within you. How do you love without losing yourself? How do you stay and still remain free? The answer lives in the lesson of boundaries. And that's where we continue next. There is a very old misunderstanding about boundaries, Gemini. People often think boundaries mean distance, coldness, turning away, loving less than before. But when seen through the eyes of healing and spiritual wisdom, boundaries are not about leaving. They are about coming home to the truth of who you are. For many years, you may have grown used to feeling too much. You walk into a room and instantly sense who is sad, who is angry, who is disappointed, who is waiting for you to soften the energy. No one has to ask you. You carry it automatically. And what matters is this. You've done it out of genuine love. But love, without boundaries, slowly turns into quiet exhaustion. You may be beginning to realize that many of the emotions you carry were never truly yours. Sorrows passed down through generations. Unspoken shame. Expectations delivered through silence. In Buddhist teaching, there is a concept called collective karma. It speaks of how we unconsciously carry shared emotional weight, family patterns, simply because we are sensitive and know how to listen. Gemini, you were born with the ability to understand quickly. But understanding does not mean you must take responsibility for everything. And this morning, when you hear a very soft whisper in your heart, I can still love without sacrificing myself, a new level of awareness begins to open. That feeling may not be comfortable. It's like a gentle earthquake beneath the ground. No one around you notices, but inside, everything is rearranging. You may feel guilt, not because you did something wrong, but because for the first time, you are not doing what feels familiar. You don't react right away. You don't over-explain. You don't tense yourself to keep the peace. You simply stop. Boundaries don't come from harsh words. They begin with honesty toward your own feelings. When you're tired, you allow yourself to be tired. When you don't agree, you don't force yourself to nod. When a comment hurts, you no longer tell yourself, just let it go. In healing astrology, boundaries are where your energy stops leaking. They don't close your heart. They simply prevent your heart from being taken without permission. You may notice something very real. Some people become uncomfortable when you set boundaries, not because you're wrong, but because they were used to having unlimited access to you. And this is a crucial truth to understand deeply. Other people's reactions are not the measure of whether your boundaries are right. If you've always been the listener, your silence may confuse others. If you've always been available, your slowing down may be misunderstood. But that misunderstanding is not something you must immediately fix. Boundaries do not need explanation to exist. They exist because you feel they are necessary. As you listen to this, you may be remembering a very specific moment, a recent conversation, a time you wanted to say no, but said maybe, a day you came home exhausted, even though nothing dramatic happened. If that's resonating, you don't need to share much. Just recognize this. You are not the only one learning this lesson. Geminis all over the world are standing at the same doorway, moving from unconscious sacrifice to conscious love. There is a gentle truth found across spiritual teachings. We cannot give what we do not have. When you are depleted, kindness slowly turns into obligation. When you are not nourished, goodness begins to carry bitterness. Boundaries are how you protect your inner light so you can continue to guide, not burn out. And when you begin to set boundaries, something very subtle happens. Your intuition becomes clearer. Because your energy is no longer scattered, your inner voice starts to speak with clarity. You feel that you know more than you think. You know where to stay. You know when to leave. You know who comes to walk beside you and who was simply a lesson already completed, not through judgment, but through peace. If you feel called, you may leave a few gentle words in the comments, not to explain yourself, just to mark a moment for your own heart. Perhaps, lately I've realized, where I need boundaries, or simply, I'm learning how to love without hurting myself. No one here is judging, only listening with open hearts, because when boundaries are placed in the right way, something else quietly begins. Your intuition, your silent guide, steps forward, and that is where our next chapter begins. Morning always carries a very special kind of energy, Gemini. It's not by chance that some of the deepest awakenings in a person's life happen before the sun fully rises, when the world is still quiet and the mind hasn't yet been crowded by noise, obligations, or worry. In Buddhist teaching, the morning mind is compared to a lake before the wind touches it. Clear water, an honest reflection. No past pulling you back, no future pushing you forward. Only a very pure present moment. And in that exact moment, if you slow down enough, you may hear a voice that feels very familiar, yet one you haven't truly listened to in a long time. Not the voice of fear, not the voice of memory, not the voice of others, but the voice of your soul. Some people call it intuition, others call it the inner voice. And in the Christian faith, it's known as the quiet guidance of God. Not thunder, not commands from the sky, but a very gentle knowing. So gentle that if you rush, you'll miss it. If this morning something suddenly became clear inside you, a relationship, a decision, a feeling you could never quite name, trust it. Not because it's new, but because it feels peaceful. God does not speak through panic. Truth does not arrive in chaos. Real truth, when it is real, always carries a deep stillness. You may not have thought your way to it. It simply appeared, like soft light slipping through a door, just as you open your eyes. In healing astrology, this is the moment Gemini steps out of an old level of awareness, the place where you were always searching for answers outside yourself. You've read a lot, you've listened a lot, you've analyzed a lot. But today, you're no longer chasing answers. You're allowing them to rise. That is spiritual maturity. No longer asking, what should I do to be right? But instead, what feels true for me right now? There's a gentle verse in the Bible that says, "Be still and know that I am God." Stillness is not about escaping life. It's about realizing you were never meant to carry everything alone. When you stop resisting the truth, even when that truth sounds like, "I'm tired, I've gone too far, I've tried for too long," a very quiet wave begins to move through you. A wave of restoration. Not dramatic, not overwhelming, but steady, like water slowly soaking into dry earth. You may notice your body responding before your mind does. Deeper breathing, looser shoulders, slightly better sleep. That's not coincidence. That's the moment your soul and your body begin standing on the same side. In Buddhism, this is called mindfulness. In Christianity, it's called grace. Different languages pointing to the same truth. You are supported when you stop resisting. Intuition isn't magic. It's what happens when you're honest enough to listen. And here's something beautiful, Gemini. God does not take away your free will. He does not force you down a path. He simply illuminates the path you are ready to walk. If this morning you feel less drawn to argue, less eager to explain yourself, less willing to hold on to what no longer fits, that's a sign of deep growth, not giving up, but trusting. Trusting that you don't have to control everything for things to be okay. Trusting that if something doesn't stay, it has already completed its role in your life. Right now, you may be thinking of a small but important decision, unspoken, not fully resolved. You don't need to rush. Just notice what your chest feels like when you think about it. If it brings peace, even with a hint of fear, that's often the truth. If it brings tension, even if it sounds right to the mind, that path may no longer be yours. If you feel called, you may share something gently in the comments. No long story needed, just a moment. Maybe, "This morning something became clear," or "I'm learning to trust the quiet inside me." You're not sharing to convince anyone, only to acknowledge the movement happening within you. Because when you begin living from intuition, your life changes rhythm. Not faster, but truer. And when you stop resisting truth, when you let light lead instead of fear, a new current begins to open. A current of healing, of balance, of receiving back what you've been giving for so long. And that is where true restoration begins. There are cycles in life, Gemini, that don't end with loud sounds. They close quietly, like a long exhale after holding yourself together for far too long. And the cycle closing within you right now is the cycle of giving without an ending. You have loved deeply, not loudly, not dramatically, but through presence. You showed up when others were not strong enough. You listened when there was no one else to hear them. You stayed in difficult moments, even when your own heart felt empty. No one asked you to do this. And yet, you did, because you believed it was love. And yes, it was real love. But love, when it loses balance, slowly becomes silent sacrifice. In Buddhist teaching, there's a very fair law. Everything moves through cause, condition, and result. Nothing is forgotten. Nothing given is ever unseen. In Christian faith, this is known as the law of sowing and reaping, and you have sown so much, not with money, but with time, with emotion, with understanding, with patience. And perhaps in quiet moments, you have asked yourself, why do I keep giving, and no one seems to hold me in return? If that question has ever touched your heart, know this: it is not a complaint. It is a sign that your soul has grown tired. And when the soul grows tired, life begins to speak for you, not with words, but with movement. Doors that once felt hard to open suddenly lose their attraction. Relationships that once consumed your energy begin to feel unfamiliar, not because you are ungrateful, but because you no longer fit the old role. Life is whispering to you now, very gently, enough. You don't need to carry any more. And when you allow those words to reach your heart, something quietly miraculous begins. You stop trying so hard. You stop proving your worth. You stop holding on to what no longer chooses to stay. New opportunities arrive without heaviness. They come softly, clearly, at the right time. New connections appear that don't require you to shrink yourself. They don't demand constant strength. They simply ask you to be who you are. Support begins to show up without you having to beg. Someone listens to you. Someone stays, not out of obligation, but out of choice. What truly belongs to you will no longer require force. This is not luck. This is balance returning. In healing astrology, this is the moment old karma completes its cycle, and new karma, lighter, begins. Not because you proved you deserve it, but because you have already paid. You learned compassion. You learned unconditional giving. And now, a new lesson opens, learning how to receive without guilt. You may feel surprised when someone treats you kindly without expecting anything back. You may feel confused when life suddenly becomes easier to breathe. Don't doubt it. Don't tell yourself, it will probably disappear anyway. There is a comforting line in the Bible: "My yoke is easy and my burden is light." When the weight becomes lighter, it is not weakness, it is grace. The universe does not reward endless suffering. God does not require exhaustion to offer love. Life does not ask you to sacrifice forever to be worthy. This cycle is closing so that you may live. If, as you listen, your eyes feel slightly wet and you're not sure why, let it happen. That is not sadness. It is the release of an old burden. You don't need to share everything. But if there's a very honest moment in your heart, you may leave a single line below. Perhaps, "I've given too much," or simply, "It's time for me to receive." No one here is judging, only souls standing at the same threshold. And as balance slowly returns, as the cycle of sacrifice closes completely, you will notice something very subtle. You are not only being repaid with opportunities or people or circumstances, you are being repaid with protection, a protection that is quiet, gentle, yet deeply steady. And that is what we will feel together next. Gemini, if you're still listening in these final moments, know this one simple truth: you are not alone in this transformation. Some changes in life don't come with noise, no applause, no clear milestone to name them, and yet, they are still being held by invisible hands. The protection around you right now is not here to control you, not here to interfere harshly. It arrives quietly, like a gentle warmth resting on your shoulder when you're tired, like a sudden sense of, "I'll be okay," that comes without explanation. In Buddhism, this is called wholesome connection. In faith in God, it is known as quiet grace. And in the language of the heart, it is simply love that doesn't need to prove itself. You may feel this presence through very small moments, escaping a situation that once felt unavoidable, a conversation that never happened, and because it didn't, you found peace. A sudden intuition that stopped you just in time. That isn't coincidence. That is protection without display. If within your families someone has grown quieter lately, a little more distant, or less involved than before, please don't rush into fear. Distance does not always mean separation. Sometimes it is simply the soul recalibrating its place. You have changed. Your energy has shifted, and relationships once built on habit need time to find a new form. You don't need to chase anyone to pull them back, and you don't need to slam any doors shut. Just remain still within your own truth. Because peace does not need permission. Peace does not need permission. You don't need approval to live truthfully. You don't need validation to lay down heavy burdens. You don't need to be fully understood to allow your heart to rest. The greatest protection you have right now is your inner clarity. Clarity about what no longer belongs to you. Clarity about which roles you have already completed. Clarity that tells you you don't need to suffer more to prove you are a good person. If these words touched a very soft place in you, you don't need to say much. Just know this. Somewhere, someone is listening and quietly nodding with you. If you feel called, you may leave a few gentle words in the comments. Not to explain yourself, just to acknowledge your own truth. Maybe, lately I've been sensing a deeper truth, or I'm ready to release an old role. Those words aren't only for others to read. They are a marker, a moment of inner transition. And perhaps someone else listening quietly, just like you right now, will read them and realize they are not alone. Before we close, I want to say thank you. Thank you, Gemini, for having the courage to stay with yourself. Thank you for not turning away when truth began to reveal itself. Thank you for giving your heart permission to rest. May the days ahead of you feel brighter, not because challenges disappear, but because you no longer carry them alone. May your heart feel lighter, not because the past is forgotten, but because it has been set down in the right place. And may the path ahead be guided by quiet wisdom, deep trust, and a love that no longer requires sacrifice. You are allowed to receive now.